Oh, hello. Welcome to today's Decay, where we celebrate births and beginnings of everything important since the dawn of time. On today's date, January 18th, here are all the dates that really rate. 1877, Karl Hans Strobel was born. He's a difficult one. Um, he was the editor of The Orchid Garden. That was the first Weird Tale type magazine. First published in 1919. Weird Tales didn't, in America, didn't get published till 1923. So the Germans, by way of Karl Hans Strobel, beat us to the punch with the collecting of strange, twisted fiction and realizing there was a audience for this. Very often they were delving into older content like Edgar Allan Poe type stuff. Very often the visuals were like Gustave Doré engravings, things of that nature, but the concept was there, and they were also printing modern writers like Karl Hans Strobel's good friend Hans Hein Evers. A bunch more. Karl Hans Strobel also was a writer of weird fiction, doing a book called Lemuria, which has only in the last decade or so been translated into English. Joe Bandel, I believe, was the translator who really championed both Karl Hans Strobel and Hans Heinz Evers. They're both terrific work. The problem is that they were both affiliated with Nazis at one point or another. Karl Hans Strobel specifically was like a card-carrying Nazi, like ranking member. But all that's several decades after he was writing weird fiction. They're really, both him and Hans Heinz Evers are writing weird fiction like World War I era, if not even before. And fast forward a couple decades, and I'd love to know why what they were writing, which would have been considered degenerate literature, didn't result in them getting ostracized, dragged out of their house, and disappear into a concentration camp or something. While I guess a version of that did happen for Hans Heinz Evers, it didn't for Karl Hans Strobel. But I just read one of his short stories called The Head, and it is so twisted, and there's no question that this would not have been allowed. So how did they cover this up? Because this was like, these were both like famous or semi-famous writers during the Weimar era of Germany. So yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I can say that the book Lemuria, as recently translated by Joe Blandell, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, excellent work. I can't suggest it enough. It's one of those like mysteries that I don't think I'll ever be able to answer of how this person escaped persecution and still managed to be a functioning member of a fascist regime. It's craziness. Yeah. Anyway, 1891, Carl Winger Harris was born. This is another frustrating story. I guess she would be most famous as being the first female writer to write science fiction and or weird fiction using her own name, as in like not a pen name that presents her as a male. That like you could write science fiction and dream up utopian worlds of the future, but you needed to do it as a guy because this was like no place for women. That's here in America. So, okay, you've got problems over in Germany at this time. You've got problems over here. We have problems these days, but interesting nonetheless. Yeah. Claire Winger Harris. Also, this day, 1901, Albert Neutzel was born. Albert Neutzel was a illustrator and painter who probably most famously would be the famous Monsters magazine cover artist that predated Basil Gogos, but still, I'd say, setting the tone for decades of classic monster portraits on the cover of fan magazines, right? Yeah. Anyway, this stuff's really fun, and obviously Basil Gogos takes a good deal of the fame, notoriety, but Albert Nutzel, very interesting stuff. Totally dig it. Martin Goodman, born this day 1908. Probably don't know his name. Feel like Stan Lee becomes the man behind, the man behind Marvel Comics, when really it was Martin Goodman who created Timely Comics and literally Marvel Comics the series, and everything we know afterwards would owe some level of appreciation to Martin Goodman. And 1963, Shock Theater with Ghoulardi first premiered. This was, in my opinion, the most exciting Ghoulardi stuff. He went on and off the air a couple different times and was so popular at certain points that he had multiple shows catering to different age groups, I suppose. But this would be the one where it's just his face up close, underlit, and anything goes. Yeah, total chaos. And his fans loved it. So there you go. January 18th, from me to you. Till tomorrow. Goodbye.